Sometimes I think about, does love still exist? Yeah, I have my doubts. On the street, I check out how brothers be living. Yo,
Yeah, let's just wait for some people to come up in here for a second
we got others with the gat and the
before I get
brothers with the
started.
fucking scope. As I enter the projects, enter rec rooms. Some brothers might see the doom. I see my nigga Paulo, fat pockets of papes. He knows the neighborhood biddies with all the dopest shapes. Big up Rollo, the blowout fro. He's got a gap, hey yo niggas gots to go. No show is live with narrate, fuck Memorex. My nigga Rollo's got a gat in Paulo's chest. One slug blasted out, down boy died. Now show me some love, kid. It sounds like a fucking lie. The struggle goes on. People trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long. Pain without a limit, so wrong. Sometimes I think how the world come to this. A place where every man and woman needs a therapist. Mass confusion, people living in delusion. Justify all the bullshit through the Constitution. Meanwhile, the masses struggle to survive. I think we're too busy to hear our people's cries. Single mothers struggle to raise families. Genocide committed through famine and disease. I wonder if these things will ever cease to exist. I know it could if we cease and desist. Giving all the power to the industrialists. Giving all our power to the damn commercialists. The sea is just as being sheep in this world. They want us to do what we're told, like boys and girls. Oh God, I want to live another day so I can help provide equality in this day. The struggle goes on. People trying to survive. All right. Hold on. Though we know it's been so long. Ain't without a limit, so wrong. Everybody around the globe, open up your earlobe, your third eye, and then decipher the code. Through knowledge, understanding, and brain.
All right, y'all. So check this out. This one is going to be a little quick as possible. I got a busy day. But this is some data and comparative data on the US and the EU in terms of disposable income after the essentials are paid. And the essentials are taxes, housing, healthcare, education, food, and clothing. All right, we don't have transportation in there, but you can do the data yourself. But this is just to have a conversation. And the reason why I thought about this is because, I'm a rational thinking person, and you can't help others until you really, can stand on your own, pretty much, right? It's hard to contribute to help others when you're not even stable, right? It's hard to do that, essentially. So, to me, I like to think rationally and know what the data is, know what my chances are. Thinking rationally lets you know your odds of success or failure. Thinking rationally, not thinking about who's taking your job, who's the real American, who came legal, even though all these immigrants they trying to get rid of, a huge majority of them are actually legal. They're under permission. Permission's being rejected now from one day to the next. I don't know if that's what you call fair. Then there's American citizens being locked up, actual real American citizens. Why that doesn't anger people, And by the way, the people that are doing this, they're showing up like this. They're showing up like this, looking like this when they come to get you, right? When they come to get you, they're like this, ICE, with guns, unmarked vehicles, and an attitude. I mean, they're corralling people, just showing up. Anybody that try to run, they don't have a clue who they are. They don't know their names. They don't have photographs of them. They just do that. But in any case, imagine if all ICE saw, if every citizen and resident was wearing a mask, then what? I mean, and they just say, I'm American, could you see? But in any case, this is the disposable income. I'm rational, so I'm not thinking about who I hate. I'm thinking first about how are my odds in real terms? And I take a look around because if you just look at your own life and you don't compare it to someone else's, you don't have a clue what you have. You really need to compare. You don't know if your work week is longer than somebody else's. You don't know if someone works less hours for more of their paycheck, for more of their disposable income every month after you. You need to compare it to something to know where you stand in the bigger picture. And if you don't stand anywhere, then goddamn, you might want to focus on that. If you're not high on the, you might want to focus on that and see what are the reasons behind it. So here's the disposable income. US versus the EU. After taxes, housing, healthcare, education, food, and clothing. I hope everybody thinks those are essentials. There, you could add transportation if you want, but okay. Top 10 US states: Utah, Massachusetts, Minnesota's number 4, Washington's number 5, New Hampshire number 6, 7 Colorado, number 8 Maryland, Virginia. DC's not on here, but DC, I want to take a look at that. That's probably higher, but in any case, then we're going to deal with the top EU countries, right? Switzerland, Iceland, Norway, United Kingdom. Even though the United Kingdom's not in the EU anymore, that's just Europe. I don't know why that came up. Austria, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, France, right? So we're going to average those 10 out. You can throw more in. But let's combine them. Let's combine them, and I'm just going to go down the list, right? Disposable income after all that stuff you paid: taxes, healthcare, education, housing, clothes, food. What the average person has left in their pocket after they paid those expenses. The number one place is Switzerland. Leftover $49,000, right? In dollars. Number 2, Iceland. 43,000 leftover. This is crazy. Norway, 43,000 leftover. United Kingdom, 41,000 leftover. Luxembourg, 38,000. Utah. So now Utah finally comes in the picture. But 38,000? So Utah, when you add the US top 10 US states, top 10 EU countries, because they're comparable with the populations, right? The EU has maybe 50 million more people than the United States, by the way. But in any case, anybody living in Sweden, I mean in Switzerland, with all those essentials paid, is living top. They're taking home the most in the after the essentials. Number 2 is Iceland. Number 3 is Norway. Number 4 is the United Kingdom. Number 5 is Luxembourg. Now Utah comes in the picture. Then Massachusetts. That's 2 US states. We already had 5 EU states above those 2 US states. US comes into the picture at number 6 with Utah. Number 7 is Massachusetts, 33,000. Utah had 34,000 after you pay your essential earnings, after you pay your essential expenses, right? Now, Austria comes in the picture. Then that's number 8. Number 9, Minnesota. So you get some U.S. thing, but that's down on the bottom. That's not the top 5. U.S. comes in the picture at 6. And this is not, this is just the top. Basic conclusion: top 10 EU countries average $35,506. Top 10 US states average, after paying your expenses, your bills, your education, your taxes, all of that. The US is 30,000 on average. That means a year after all the essentials are paid, someone that lives in the EU territories is keeping 5,000 more dollars than the average American citizen. Why is that not a news story on Fox or CNN? Maybe because they're both corporate media. Maybe because wealthy people control that. They don't want to really get down to the details about what you pay for and what you should get back. And they don't ever break it down for you. No, 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 no. Which you should really be wondering about since you're not in the top five. The US comes in at six and probably a lot lower if you keep going, right? Now, why is there more left in the EU? Like healthcare, lower and not out of the pocket cost. That's in the tax system. That's called collective bargaining. It's just like Medicare. It's done better. And you get into private hospitals too if the public hospital can't fix you, right? So, low cost for free education, you know, lower housing costs, lower housing costs in the EU, stronger consumer protections and social support. This is after you pay your taxes and your expenses, your housing bill, education, right? Healthcare. After you pay all of that, you know, they get $5,000 more dollars in their pocket a year, EU citizens, over American citizens. That should be Fox News, but nah, Fox News don't got 1 day for that. CNN don't have 1 day for that. Sounds strange. I don't know. You tell me. Why U.S. still ranks well? Okay, the U.S. ranks. I mean, when you compare it to other countries, and even the U.S. not that bad, but it's 5,000 on average per person less in the EU. Higher gross income. So some people in the U.S. is getting paid a lot of money. Lower personal taxes, paying less taxes. You might think that sounds like a good thing right off the bat, right? Well, let's compare the homelessness and the prison rate and see how that looks then. More flexibility in housing and job choice. So the U.S. is doing good, right? It's not that bad, even though they're taking home on average 5,000 less dollars a year after you pay your expenses. You tell me, can you use 5,000? I don't know. Or guess what? You got 5,000 and you got to carry guns. 5,000 less and you got to carry guns for that 5,000 less. Maybe that has something to do with it. Okay, let's go through. Education is about equal, right? It's about equal. But now let's go down. So I don't want to go through that, but I want to go to the next part in terms of the percentage of people educated versus tech schools, trade schools, and universities. It's almost even. Now let's get to the prison population, right? The United States has 541 people in prison per 100,000, placing it among the highest globally. So while you get 5,000 less dollars average after you pay all your expenses, you have a high prison rate. So a lot of that money, taxes goes to that, right? Approximately 1.8 million people incarcerated with slight decrease from earlier. Okay. So EU and Europe on average 111 per 100,000 individuals. That is 5 times less people in prison. So are these people productive? Why is that? Could it be because in the EU education is free? Could that be what it is? I mean, even if you can't get a job, having a education still helps you. It still helps you in approaching things in a systematic, rational manner. It helps you organize yourself, and education can help do that. Okay, so let's go. Now let's go to the homelessness, right? United States. While you get 5,000 less dollars per person when you compare it to the EU, after you pay all of your expenses, housing, healthcare, right? All these things, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, right? Education, you get 5,000 less after you pay off all of that stuff than the EU people. Here's your homelessness rate. United States, 771,000, were homeless on a single night in January 2024, about 23 per 10,000, 230 per 100,000. Homelessness rose by 18%. Okay, year over year. I'm not sure what years, but that's relatively recent. Okay, Europe, on the other hand, right? Check this out. Europe has a high, they have 50 million more people than the US, the EU. They have around 195,000 people experience homelessness nightly across Europe, right? Now, that is 174 persons per 100,000, right? So, exactly. And the US has double, 230 persons per 100,000. So, not double, but the US has more homelessness than the EU. While, I mean, are these numbers starting to add up to you? Let's see here. Scott says the message of the cross. Okay, let me see. The lack of disposable income is fueling the crime rate. Yo, who said this? Donald, you're absolutely right. That would be my deduction. That would be my deduction. And quality of life. I mean, after all, if the crime is less in Europe, right, then wouldn't it be a little more peaceful if more people are, well, about the same number of people are educated, but the access to health care, the access to all those other things, education, I think you get a more peaceful society, a more peaceful experience while you keep 5,000 more dollars a year in your pocket. I mean, that is what this tells me. And I can qualify that by personal experience. I'm born and raised in the US. My family is from the US on both sides, all the way back to the beginning of the country, right? But I've lived in Europe for 20 years too. So, and I'm in my 50s, right? So I've experienced and traveled around, but I've lived in the EU. So I've lived in the United States, Washington, D.C., New York, right? And I've traveled the country too a little bit, and outside the country, Canada, traveled there, Europe, things like this, right? But I've lived in both. So my experience, overall experience, is that it's more peaceful in the EU. Prison population. USA, 541 people per 100,000. Europe, 111 per 100,000. That is 5 times higher. And you keep because of that, you keep $5,000 less after you pay for all your expenses, education, housing, health care, right? These kind of things. All of those essentials that I mentioned earlier. If you didn't hear it, go back to the top of the stream. They're keeping more money in their pocket and they have lesser crime rate. To me, that says quality of life is better. Now, I don't know why Fox News and CNN isn't covering quality of life, isn't covering how much money you keep, isn't covering what you get for your taxes, isn't covering these kind of things. I mean, you would think they would, since a lot of Americans tend to goddamn complain. Yes, Americans goddamn complain about stuff, maybe all the wrong shit, for a lot of you, but some of you got it on point. You know where the center point is: education, housing, healthcare, and a decent wage. Right? By the way, there's more unions in the EU. Maybe that has something to do with people coming home with 5,000 more dollars a year in their pocket. What are they getting after all those essentials? I mean, this is also includes childcare now. The EU healthcare also is included with elder care. So, and that's same with the US. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the US, but the EU and a lot of those countries, that elder care is there in that healthcare system that you get too. So, homelessness. Face notable homelessness issues. Yeah, we went over that. US 230 per 100,000. Uh, European average 174 per 100,000 for 100,000. So less homelessness. Conclusion: U.S. incarceration rates remain extraordinarily high, dwarfing European levels. Homelessness is similarly serious in both regions, with the USA slightly ahead overall, but Europe sees acute crisis in some nations. The data suggested a need for more reform in criminal justice in the USA, a major effort to address structural housing challenges in both areas. Yes, so let's go to the next part. Yeah, let's see here. I'm gonna drop some of this after the stream in the post and the video under the video, so just so people can have that. Now let me see here. Let me go to another with the healthcare, right? Uh, let's see here. Europe, universal systems of healthcare. Healthcare systems across the EU, the United States. Okay, 92% of US population had healthcare insurance in 2023. That's about to change for the same amount of taxes. You're about to get less because the Republicans, hey, they got to pay those 88 people to be your slave master, basically. Since you people don't like unions in the US. 7.8 remaining uninsured. Among working age adults 19 to 64, the uninsured rate is around 10% is around 11%. Coverage breakdown: 54% employer sponsored, 19% Medicare, 19% Medicaid. These are about to be cut for a lot of people too, so these numbers don't even count anymore for the US. 10% private direct purchase. EU. Healthcare systems across the EU are predominantly universal, near universal. 94% to 100% are covered. And so the US is automatically right off the bat covering less people. Um, but in any case, France, 99% covered by national healthcare insurance. Luxembourg, 99%. Denmark, where I am, 100%. Um, let's see here. EU coverage rate, 92%. Uh, eight hold on. Yeah, regional. Oh, let me go back. I'm sorry. USA, 92%. That was a mistake. 8% overall, 11% among adults. Okay. Um, that's uninsured, the 8 to 11%. EU average 94 to 100%. It depends on what country you're in. Um, that's 0 to 6% uninsured rate across Europe because it's slightly different depending on what country. France and Luxembourg, 99 to 100. Denmark's not included in this, or Sweden, these kind of countries. But key insights: U.S. maintains significant uninsured gaps, especially among working age adults. So you got working age adults in their prime, ready to give you their blood, sweat, and tears for the society, and they uninsured. They're the ones that's less uninsured. Well, not like they can break a leg or anything working hard. You know what I'm saying? God forbid you work too goddamn hard. You know what I'm saying? You may not be able to afford that. That might be the last time you go to work in the U.S. Most EU countries achieve near universal health care insurance coverage, typically to 94 to 100% range. Okay. Bottom line: USA, 8% uninsured to 11% uninsured. EU, almost universal health care. Most countries exceed 94% to 100. All right, so let's go to the next area here. Let's see here. There's some more breakdowns. I don't want to go over the economy anymore. There's different ways, but the EU still comes out on top. So, all right, but let me just do some other small references here. Cost of living, U.S. wages often reflect higher living costs, especially in major urban centers. Social benefits, EU wages include stronger public services, but also higher mandatory contributions, reducing net take home. That's net, but that's not the same as what you get in your pocket. Income distribution, U.S. wages are more volatile. High earners skew the average upward. Yeah, that's okay. Conclusion. Average gross wage in the USA is approximately 70,000, while EU is 41,000. So people are getting paid less in the EU, but they're taking home more money per person after all their expenses are paid. That only tells you that the US is just out of its mind. It's just run amok with corporate cost. You know what I'm saying? Corporations owning everything. And guess who owns it? Only 88 people. 88 people own all that shit. They basically own your ass. Talk about rights. Talk about rights. Talk about we don't have a king. Maybe you should have a goddamn king because a lot of these European kingdoms, which are EU countries, they have kings and they treating their citizens better. Straight up. Straight up. Okay, average gross wage, let me see here. In the US is approximately, okay, yeah, 70,000, EU 41,000. After taxes and contribution, US workers take home around 53,000 compared to the estimated 30 to 34,000 in the EU. Net difference roughly 19 to 23 a year per person. But somehow they're taking home 5,000 more dollars per person. That's because the more people are in the economy, more people are working and getting a check in the economy in the EU. Wab, what's up, bro? That's uh that's basically it. Now, listen, I don't want to debate y'all about it because of course I have qualified information. I've lived in both places. I know people in both places. I talk to I don't want to say what my salary is for, but I get paid pretty well. And I could live by myself anywhere in the US pretty well. So even the capital, you know, for my salary essentially. So I have qualified information about how that really works. Don't just go on the numbers either. Let's look at what you get paid for what type of job also. That would be a good one to do. But folks, y'all can look into this. You can look into this and you should look into this. And by the way, this should be the biggest story. This should be the story that anybody, any news agency that cares about you is talking about, especially in light of the fact that midterm elections are coming up. Because if you want more money in your pocket after your expenses and you're an American citizen or an American resident, but American citizen too, American residents also vote in the Senate and the Congress for that. If you want more money in your pocket, if you agree that everyone should have more money in their pocket in the USA after they paid all of their expenses, you better vote in this. You better get 2/3 of that House, of the Senate, 51% of the House, but 2/3 of the Senate because you're going to have to do some structural stuff with the corruption in the Supreme Court, corruption, with the billionaire class, corruption also just like damn near spying, foreign spies all up in the US buttocks right about now. I mean, the US is not doing, the US is on shaky ground security wise. I mean, but in any case, let's get on with this. I got a few more minutes, but let me get on with this. I hope that information was helpful to people. Um, I'm only doing it because I'm an American and I do give a shit. I'm a proud American. I do care about my country. I do care about my countrymen because again, I know both sides of it, right? But I'm also like not trying to be a bulletproof vest for people that are hard-headed and crazy and just, hard-headed as fuck. Like if you want to go out like that, I won't get in your way either. Now, check this out. I'm gonna close out here. But I'm gonna close out here. But guess what? The lady is talking. Ghislaine Maxwell is talking. She's talking. This lady is talking. Check this out. This is crazy. Just take a listen. This is insane. I would never think this, but look, let's listen. Let's see here. Here we go.
Jeffrey Epstein's
Can
gal
y'all hear
pal
this?
and accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell just took subtle aim at Donald Trump, and the schism in MAGA world just got much, much wider. Kind of like Trump's waistline. Welcome back to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. So, if you've been following our channel, and if you haven't, subscribe now, why don't you? You know that the conspiracy theories surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein and his human trafficking ring have cleaved a huge rift in MAGA world. Donald Trump and a number of his appointees, including Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, have promised a full release of files and a client list during their campaigns, only to backtrack on that promise in recent weeks. Of course, that reversal has drawn the ire of many high-profile right-wing nuts who continue to insist a client list exists despite Trump administration denials. But, with the government obfuscating,
Oh my
eyes have fallen
God.
to Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, if you have not followed this case in all its grotesquerie, you might be wondering just how Maxwell fits into all of this. Here's a brief rundown.
Ghislaine Noël Marion Maxwell was born in France on Christmas Day in 1961, the ninth and youngest child of Elizabeth and Robert Maxwell, a newspaper baron and member of parliament. But more about him later. She grew up in Headington Hill Hall in Oxford. A
La la
lavish
la la
mansion.
la. I'll not try to hear all of this, what she's about. But check this. Check this out. This is crazy. This
Widely reported that Ghislaine was her father's favourite child, hence he named his luxury
Come on, let's get past this.
yacht from London to New York. Travelling with her was a greying, plumpish, middle-aged American businessman who managed to avoid the photographers. His name is Jeffrey Epstein, a shadowy, almost maverick New York property developer who for over a year has helped Ghislaine become a coveted fixture on the Manhattan social scene. During the last year, say friends, she has fallen in love with him and the couple are inseparable. Some acquaintances claim that Epstein controlled Maxwell and that he was an incredibly manipulative man. Other reports suggest Maxwell worshipped Epstein, with friends saying Ghislaine thought they might get married one day. However, according to charges filed in New York, Ghislaine Maxwell is now accused of facilitating Epstein's sexual exploitation and abuse of multiple girls from 1994 to 1997. The charges continue. Maxwell assisted and contributed to Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse victims known to Maxwell and Epstein to be under the age of 18.
All right, so everybody knows that part of the story, right? Everyone knows this much about it, you know. Yeah. We get the picture. But now she's talking, right? So, and Trump and the MAGA are split. They're totally split. And, you know, I was tempted to last night to replay an old stream that I did where it actually had a MAGA person up on here, up on the panel, like explaining all the things why he was voting for Donald Trump. This is right before the election, right before the election happened. You know, I had a bunch of people up and people were explaining why they supported Trump and all of this stuff. And it's like, of course, we had people that didn't support Trump, but it's really funny to go back and listen to these people's reasoning because what did they get? This was one of the main things they was talking about. Literally, most of these people thought that Hillary Clinton was drinking baby blood and that Trump would be the one to expose Epstein. It's on record. It's anthropological research. You ask people what they think and they tell you. They explain in detail, right? So now Trump is not trying to release it, right? They made up their stories. The stories don't make any sense. They've been caught manipulating the tapes, the prison tapes, footage. They've been, I mean, nothing makes sense anymore. Okay, so Jeffrey Epstein, if it was all a hoax, that's what Trump says. If it was all a hoax, so Jeffrey Epstein killed himself because of a hoax? Like, how's that possible? If it was all a hoax, Trump is the one. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested under Trump's presidency. So why did you think you didn't think it was a hoax then, right? Kash Patel says it was always a hoax. What? Like they're saying all of them, all the appointees have different stories. It's not adding up. So you can kind of know that if you're going to continue to just believe these people, you're crazy. You're crazy. It is very simple. Trump is deeply involved with Epstein. Yes. And could there be espionage going on? Absolutely. Trump, the entire time, he was best friends with Epstein. According to Trump, he was also traveling to Russia. You think Epstein don't know nothing about that? Why wouldn't a Russian spy want to know who Donald Trump's best friend is? Why wouldn't they want to know that? You think they're that dumb? No. So you have to assume that there's a lot going on here and ask yourself, doesn't Trump kind of act funny? Like everything he does seems to help Putin. Every little thing. It helps Putin, it helps China. What has he done to help the US? What has he done to help the EU? What has he done? The EU and the US, the economies are embedded together. You know how much cross trade there is between the two? That is insane. It is insane. Trump has helped his competitors, helped the US competitors more than anything else. And you just have to ask yourself why. And look, don't run away from what you know, what makes sense. Don't run away from it. Epstein died under Trump. He was arrested under Trump. He died under Trump. What did Epstein know? Did he know anything about Trump? Of course he did. And he dies under Trump. He's arrested under Trump. He dies in New York City, the home place where Trump grows up. He's got to know more people in New York City than anywhere else in the USA. That's his hometown. The same hometown he got away with not paying taxes on properties, overvaluing his properties for decades. For decades. And this is the person you wanted to be the president. You thought he was going to bring justice to you? The man that said he could walk out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and no one would say anything? That's how simple-minded you motherfuckers are. Anyway, let's hear more.
Wouldn't you agree? And just wait until you hear what she has to say about Trump. Keep watching. Now that you're acquainted with Ms. Maxwell, however, you'll be happy to know that she is currently serving a 20-year sentence in New York after a jury convicted her on 5 counts of sex trafficking. Her lawyer is also suing her for almost $900,000 in unpaid legal fees. But how does Donald Trump, who once described Epstein as one of his closest friends and gushed over his taste in young women, seriously, how does Trump fit into all of this? Well, with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel having betrayed their Epstein conspiracy theory base, I now fall to Maxwell to spill all the gruesome details about Epstein's sex ring, namely his high-profile clients. Trump's name is often mentioned as a potential name on the Epstein roster, which has only raised more questions about his potential role in all of this. And now, Ghislaine Maxwell just made the taco-in-chief break a sweat. Who likes a sweaty taco? The Guardian now reports that Maxwell has told multiple contacts she is ready and willing to testify before Congress regarding Epstein and his clients.
Now, you know, my mind tells me that if you're Epstein, you know all of this shit, and you know you've been doing all of this shit, or for some reason Trump thought you were doing all of this shit. The FBI under Trump thought you were doing all of this shit. MAGA thought he was doing all of this shit because they damn sure were talking about all this shit. That was the centerpiece of Epstein, Hillary drinking blood from babies. They knew all about it. MAGA, they voted for Trump. Trump arrests him. The FBI under Trump arrests him about all that shit, publicize it about all that shit, and he dies. And you trying to say he ain't died about all that shit? Like, okay, so what did he die for? This, oops. I don't know. You tell me, because if he didn't do shit and it was all a hoax, can a lawyer figure that out in court? He got billions of dollars. He got he's got Trump as a friend. Can't get a pardon if it was a hoax. Come on. Come on. So now they're caught in their little space. But let's continue. Let's continue. I mean, this is the perfect example of these people know how to kick themselves in the ass best. Best, better than anyone ever could.
Contrary to popular belief, she
Oh,
signed no plea deal that would
no, sorry about that. My point was this. My point was she's talking now. Between the time Epstein, he knew he was going to jail. He goes to jail. He knows he's going to trial. You don't think he talked to anybody else? You don't think Epstein talked to anybody else? You don't think anybody else got their hands on that shit before Trump? Why? I mean, MAGA was talking about this, so Trump heard about this too. Trump knew about all of this scandalous stuff. Then he gets arrested and he dies. Jeffrey Epstein is watching all of this shit on TV. Damn, they talking about me like this? Damn, it looks like I'm going to jail for life, right? Looks like I'm in deep shit. So he wouldn't tell anybody his secrets? He wouldn't tell anybody? You don't even know if he even sold some. I mean, the dude is into espionage. That means blackmail. That means I got this tape on you. You don't do what I say. Shit, I'll sell this bad boy to somebody else. You don't want to buy it? I'll sell it to Russia. I'll sell it to Israel. I'll sell it. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that's what espionage is. That's what blackmail is. What do you think it would be in practical terms? It's either you pay me this money to keep it shut or I sell it to someone else. That's what it is. You do what I want you to do. And imagine what a foreign country could do if they got that hands on that information. And if they did get their hands on that information, guess who's all in it? Trump. And Trump's acting kind of funny, indecisive on every goddamn thing he does any day of the week. Acting really strange. Not really helping Americans. I mean, you're definitely going down with Trump. Do you think some foreign people are blackmailing Trump? I mean, you tell me. But anyway, let's hear what Maxwell says, and and I'm sure there's a whole lot more. I'm sure.
bar her from speaking about her crimes or her experience with Epstein. And here's the real twist: the Republican Party is blocking her. The Republican Party, of course, controls both houses of Congress right now and has ultimate subpoena power when it comes to investigations. And Congress can, as the Guardian article correctly points out, launch investigations into just about anything. Previous inquiries have delved into such non-government related matters as cigarette smoking, the effects of pornography on the human mind, and the Ku Klux Klan. There's no real reason why Congress couldn't launch its own investigation into Epstein, even if just to call Maxwell to testify before the world. Thus, the bigger and better question becomes, why would the GOP not want Maxwell to testify and put this whole situation to rest? I mean, this is the same party that spent years investigating Benghazi and Hillary Clinton's emails, the Whitewater affair, and plenty of other nincompoop issues, and had no problem spending taxpayer dollars to do so. Of course, there is always the possibility that Maxwell might implicate Republican lawmakers in her testimony, in particular, Donald Trump. At which point this whole scandal would take on a very different proportion and essentially turn the administration on itself. Is that what Trump and the GOP are afraid of? Is that why they changed their tune on Epstein? Is that why they won't release all the files that they promised?
Sounds like it is.
And perhaps, most
If it walks and talks like a duck, it's a duck.
importantly to this story, is this why Trump, both in his first and second administrations, has considered pardoning Ms. Maxwell, as journalist Michael Wolff has reported on numerous occasions? Look, I normally don't go for conspiracy theories at all, but there is more to this story, and given what we already do know, it's probably pretty ugly stuff. So how much uglier can Donald Trump get? We will keep you posted on this continuing saga as news continues to develop. Feel free to share your own theories in the comments.
All right, so she's going to talk. You know that she's already talked come on, there's more people that know this. There's more people that know this. Why would you, knowing any of this type of stuff, the severity of it, the things that were said, right? The things she was convicted of, and Epstein was about to go on trial. I mean, it's very, very deep. Why would they feel safe? And the only way strikes me that you would be safe is if you told other people and people don't know who you told. To me, that's what it sounds like. But then again, you're dealing with Trump. And Trump obviously he acts like a very desperate man. He acts and behaves like a very, very desperate man. But it's up to you to to decide what you think about it. I mean, Congress, obviously the Republicans don't want it. Their whole platform was Hillary drinking blood, and yeah, all this so-called corruption. Well, where's the corruption with Epstein? They don't want to uncover that. What happened to Bill Clinton in the dress, the picture? They don't know if that's they don't know if Bill Clinton sat down or if that's humor. But Bill Clinton went there. They don't want to know about Bill Clinton. What could make them not want to know about Bill Clinton? What? That's Hillary Clinton's wife. They hate Bill Clinton. They hate Bill Clinton. But now they're saying, no, none of that was real about Bill Clinton. That's what Cash Patel says. None of it is real. It was all made up. And remember, I said yesterday, I can look at Cash Patel and tell, like, you can't trust this dude. I would never trust him. He looks like a guy that would lie in anyone's face to get what he wants. And indeed, it sounds like now, like that's exactly what he did. He talked all that MAGA shit. He talked all that Epstein Island shit. He went on tours. He got rich, damn near popular. Social media, all podcasts, all of this shit. That was his thing. Talking about they're gonna do this. Trump is gonna do this on day one. They're gonna expose it. They're gonna do all of this shit. And the people are sitting there interviewing him, saying, "Yeah, that sounds about right, man. Yeah, that would be cool, Cass Patel, man. I hope you win. I hope Trump wins. Yeah, we want that, Trump." And now he's saying it was all a hoax. It was never real. And not to point this out, I'm not saying anything bad about immigrants, because immigrants are like everybody else. You got some good ones, got some bad ones. You can't just start putting them in groups and thinking that, no, there's a whole lot of nuances there. But Cash Patel seems like the bad anchor baby, the type of immigrant you don't want. That's what he sounds like to me. Because anybody that goes out there and talks all of that shit, and is supposed to secure and keep your country safe, and they handle their shit like that, and then they just totally flip-flop on you from one day to the next, you have to understand this man doesn't give a goddamn about you. Not one single American citizen does this man appear to give a damn about. And the rest of these cabinet members and appointees, how they treated Texas, the flooding, how they treated California, the fires. Yo, you are anti-American. Anti-American. Republicans live in California. Republicans live in Texas. These people are anti-Republicans too. They're anti-MAGA. They're pro-billionaires. 88 billionaires. They're pro them. I'm going to have to say this. I pray for my country. I've never said that before. And I've never had to. But knowing what the stakes are, knowing American people, growing up, living there, I didn't come to the EU until I was an adult, pretty much. Well, I was an adult, totally. To live. And knowing both groups, I got a pretty good idea of the pros and the cons. I know the history of the U.S. I know the history of the EU. I'm not a numbskull. I actually believe in studying history and different cultures and different people. So, that's something you should do. That makes you a person a better traveler when you know things about people. That means you can meet them halfway in a conversation. You can be an equal. You know, I would have to say that Americans need a goddamn break, yo. Americans need a fucking break. All of y'all. The MAGA ones, the people that the MAGA always point the finger at and call liberals, they need a break. All y'all need a break. All liberals are doing better than MAGA folk. But MAGA people, give yourself a goddamn break. Give yourself a break. You need to wake up. You need to see these billionaires played you, and played somebody played Trump. Somebody has played Trump. And you just have to understand that. And that's what's more dangerous. You've gotten through this thing before about the billionaire class robbing and cheating and scamming people, not wanting to pay taxes, not wanting to pay a fair wage, to the point where you get $5,000 each American less on average than a European citizen after all your expenses are paid. To that degree, you get more homelessness. Also, you get more incarcerations. Also, right? And there's other things, but you deserve a break. You deserve a break, and something's got to give. And so I'm just saying that. Now, typically, I've never had to say that before, but I do. I'm only saying it because I care about my country. I could be biased. I'm a Democrat. I vote for social justice for everyone, including MAGA people. I'm talking about social justice like your family should have enough to eat. You should have a home, also, MAGA people, right? You should have a fair wage, MAGA people. But I also mean that for Democrats too. Just Americans. Just Americans. You see? And I know what's special about the U.S. because I've grown up in the U.S. and I've also lived abroad. So I know that the U.S. has something special no one else has, but you don't even know what that specialness is. The U.S. is in so much chaos. The people are in so much chaos, they don't have time to even reflect on it. The very thing that MAGA people think is a problem is the thing everyone else envies. And it's the very thing that makes the U.S. the wealthiest country on earth. The problem is the billionaires do not share that wealth, and they treat the average everyday American like shit. They work you like slaves under threat of homelessness if you falter, if you break a leg. That's what they're doing. Richest country on earth. They got black people, white people going against white people going against Jews, Muslims going against Jews, Jews going against. I mean, I don't want to say everybody, folks going against gay people, folks going against handicapped people, folks. They got everybody divided, played like suckers. All of you need a home. All of you need a decent wage. And the billionaires, the 88, they got their they got their payoff, and you ain't get shit but another whip. Wake the fuck up. Damn. People are fucking tired of that shit. Americans that know better, especially me, out living outside, I get tired of watching this bad news in the fucking U.S. People used to like Americans, respect Americans. Man, right now they're like, God damn, what's wrong with these people? Really, I'm just telling you. Yeah. In any case, wow, man, you could see I'm actually getting emotional here about this, because I have family in the U.S. My kids are also dual citizens. I care about their future. I care about my ancestors that toiled in the country from the beginning. I care about their legacy. And I don't disavow anybody else's legacy either. And I don't go for that bullshit. I know I speak rationally. It took a lot of different kind of people to defeat the Confederates and their bullshit plan. Not just one group of people, a lot of people. It took a lot of people to fight in World War II. A lot of different kind of people. It took a lot of people to do all these things. War of Independence, Civil War. It took a lot of people to do the Civil Rights era. Not just one group. Many groups had to come together to make that happen. It took a lot of people to get get people access to you know all the things. America is a work. The U.S. is a work in progress. People didn't all start off with rights. And some people that did take that shit in full advantage. Like they don't even see the hypocrisy in it, you know? Yeah. But on that note, get busy, y'all. Get busy. Your ass is on the line. Literally. And you just gotta face it. You just gotta face it for what it is. I really would like people to get beyond these kind of divisions. Because, of course, you can always be yourself, but you will always have to deal with other people. So your unwillingness to deal with other people holds you back. You have to find a common ground, and the common ground has to be you don't have to like me, you don't have to live with me, you don't have to talk to me, but I'll be damned when we go to work, we got to have a fair chance. I'll be damned when we go home, we got to have a fair chance. When we pay our taxes, we got to have a fair chance at this thing called life. That has to be a norm. Otherwise, you're never going to get any goddamn peace. You're always going to be at each other, and the billionaire class always going to get their tax break. There's always going to be a new Donald Trump. If not Donald Trump, then there's going to be somebody else. So, yeah, that is not the reality across the EU. That's not the reality. That is not the reality in Canada. That is the reality in the United States of America. Even right now, they want to change, do more gerrymandering, change people's votes. I mean, we didn't even talk about the data today about what percentage of the population votes. Of course, more people vote in the EU. Of course, more people in the US are disenfranchised somehow, some way. And not only that, just the people that can vote, 80 million people, that's 1/3 of the population, voting population, did not vote. So y'all looking fucking bad by all standards. Sure, you might earn some money, but what do you get for it? You might pay lower taxes, but what do you get for it? You pay lower taxes, you get a little bit more money on average, and you get less for it. How does that figure? That means you've been duped, bamboozled. And if you're a MAGA person and you don't think you've been bamboozled, oh goddamn. If you're anybody and you don't think you're being bamboozled, damn, what are you paying attention to? So why can't that be why can't all you Americans that are broke asses, middle class people, struggling to have health care, struggling to have housing, struggling to have a vacation? Did I tell you a lot of, that these essentials include vacation over here, paid vacation. Does that in the US? No. So, yeah, it is. So I think you would have to be totally irrational to not be able to figure this, to not be able to solve this problem. But there's a lot of irrational goddamn Americans. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what sex you are, what anything you are. Irrational is irrational. That's all that is. Irrational pride. For a lot of people, it's irrational pride. Everybody's not bumped out there totally like that. There's a lot of people talking about housing. There's people talking about housing in real terms. There's people trying to get more Medicare. But let me tell you, nothing beats people knowing the difference, knowing that they're being bamboozled and doing something about it together than anything else. It starts there. If you don't know it, man, you're always gonna. There's gonna be more percentage you get duped. More. There's a more of a chance you get duped when you don't know the differences. So yeah. On that note, I'm gonna close out. You know, stand up for your rights. And immigrants. There are legal immigrants. Stop telling people that they're illegal. There is something called asylum. You can first go to the UN, the treaty that was signed, and say you're not a part of that treaty anymore. Any asylum, any human rights, you can just declare that. If you don't want to be a part of it, if you don't want to do things fairly, which is utilizing Congress and voting for it. What happened to comprehensive immigration reform? You still don't have that. All you have is a bunch of people riding around on horseback, just jumping out and just trying to grab anybody. How many times do we have to see these videos? US is looking bad. Everyone else is saying, you know what? Our democracy is not so bad after all. When looking at the US, yeah, that's what they're all saying. That's what people are all saying, yo. Donald Trump, you got Donald Trump and the people that voted for him to thank for that. And you only have your own stupidity because you don't want to recognize your own fellow Americans and you don't want to recognize everybody's value, equal value. You're just another human being. To be a citizen, what is that? What is it to be a citizen? You have how many cabinet appointees? By the way, I missed one of the dual citizenships. One of the dual citizens in Trump's cabinet is a guy they're saying is a Russian spy too, born in Malta, someplace like that, or his paperwork says Malta, but no, not Malta, some other place that used to be a Russian territory, but then changed. But he's from that, and they say he have ties to the Kremlin. He's a dual citizen. He's one of Trump's cabinet. Kash Patel, he's a child of immigrants. That's not all Americans. That's not me. That's not my American story. My American story is totally different from Kash Patel. And God damn it, I want it recognized and acknowledged as it should be. Just like any other Americans. These are some real, we got to do some real talking. That don't mean he don't have the right to live there, but why the hell can anyone think that he has something to offer like that just right off of the bat? I'm just saying he's really fucked it up. And for a lot of immigrants, Kash Patel has fucked it up for a lot of immigrants. Because all immigrants aren't like that. But damn, Tucker, what's this guy's name? Sean Hannity. He's also, he's an anger damn baby. His damn self, pretty much. He's one of these big right wing Fox News, and he's talking like he's been in the U.S. forever. No, you haven't. You and Kash Patel, y'all in the same boat. You're not in the boat with the other Americans whose families died for this country. Time and time and time over, and toiled in this country, making the country what it is. You're not one of them. Americans, no MAGA person should want a Sean Hannity talking over an American citizen whose family's been there from the beginning. Are you out of your mind? He doesn't say shit for what the American experience is. And neither does Kash Patel. I have to be this way because these guys, it's not about them being immigrants. It's about them personally. They miss the whole message of what it is to be an American. Totally. They are bad immigrants. That's what they are. They supported a pedophile crook. They are bad immigrants. A treasonous one, from what it looks like to a lot of people. That's bad. That's bad. They didn't support housing. They didn't support health care. They don't support you to have a fair wage. They lie to you every day in your face. These are bad people. So all immigrants aren't good, like they say. But unfortunately, these ones get a pass for some reason. Why they get a pass from MAGA? Why they get a pass from MAGA? It's so many of them. So it's really a lot of hypocrisy going on in there. But I would suggest the Americans whose families have been there for centuries, y'all need to start calling this shit out. Just start calling it out. Because these people support going out there and grabbing people up on the street out of nowhere, including American citizens. So, yes, we got to call that out. They're bad people. You know, yeah. The only people, it wasn't the immigrants stopping the United States. It was the wealthy people. It is the wealthy class conspiring against everyone else, controlling the dice, controlling the news media, paying off politicians, paying off the Supreme Court. That's what it factually is. Working you to the bone, regardless if you're white, if you're black, anybody. Working people to the bone. Gaslighting people. Making you feel like, why should I have to pay for his health care? Because it's cheaper, goddammit. More people get access to it. That's why. You get more money in your pocket. That's why if you do it that way after you pay all your expenses. That's why, goddammit. There's a rational reason, you know. Anyway, I gotta go, y'all. Let me see here. This is so funny, man. Oh yeah, we got some trolls in there, man. Hey, comment on the information. Don't start commenting on, stuff that doesn't even matter. This is an intellectual conversation. Bobo, whatever that dude's name is. Okay, let me see here. Yeah. The solution is no, the solution is not a word called socialism. The solution is be rational. Fuck what you call it. Start there. Start being rational. I don't give a damn what you call it. People call it all types of things. It's a capitalist engine. So you can't call it socialist. The EU is a capitalistic engine. That's what fuels it. Having getting something for your taxes and having collective bargaining on things like housing, health care, education, that's not socialism. These are bare essentials that everyone needs in a society. That's not socialism. What you do after that is your business. You can go out and become a millionaire if you want. You can start your own company if you want. You can hire your own people. You can do what a lot of people do. I mean, doctors living quite well here, but so is the average person. Does Jeff Bezos need another jet? You want to pay for his jet? Well, you just did. That's the solution. Stop that. Just call it what you want, but be rational about it and be data driven about it, and qualitative about it. Use the quantitative data and the qualitative data, meaning go out and talk to people and get their personal stories too after you combine it. That's what you got to do. That's all I'm saying. And Americans need to fall back on that. That's what you call approaching it from a educated perspective. You know, you ask what are the solutions. That's my advice. It's not. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. It's what all your fellow NATO members are doing. All these capitalistic countries are doing, except you. The people that your economy is embedded with, they're doing it and you're being hard-headed about it. Okay? That's what it is. But anyway, I gotta go, y'all. Yeah, who did I vote for? I voted for the person that talked about healthcare, that talked about housing, that talked about education, student debt relief, these kind of things, better jobs, better paying jobs, or a living wage. And I voted for the person who called Trump out, who called him what he was, who told on the world stage, said to Trump, you You do things, you do things for world leaders laugh at you because they know all they have to do is compliment you and they can play you like a fool. Basically, that's what was said. And that person was right. That person also said if this person Trump gets in power, this is going to happen. Project 2025 is going to happen. There won't be any comprehensive immigration reform. They don't want that, but they're going to start taking Americans' rights. That's happening. They're going to take your Medicare. That's happening. They're going to stop funding FEMA. That's happening. I voted for the person that talked about that stuff. That's who I voted for. Call it what you want. Give it a name if you want. But it's the things. It's about the things. I don't care what the name is. The name could be Cash Patel. If it ain't coming with nothing, it ain't shit. The name could be Sean Hannity. If it's not factual and ain't and is hypocritical, and that's not the one for me. You could call it anything. You could call it anything, but it's going to come down to the details, no matter what you call it, the nuances, because after all, it's your ass. It's your ass. Look after your ass like you would look after a business. It's the detail. Okay, you don't get paid for. You don't come out with the gold, missing the nuances and missing the details. You know, so you got to go about it that way. That would be my advice. But I got to go, y'all. I appreciate everybody, and please subscribe, share the word. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I want Americans in the U.S. to get a chance to hear from an American outside. I'm not a naturalized American citizen, born and raised in the U.S., born and raised in the capital, and my family is from the country from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's part of my duty to help my fellow American, right? Give them some perspective about what it's like in the EU. But if you don't want it, you don't want it. And I'm not chasing you down to give it to you. You're coming here, and I'm cool with that because I opened this up. I'm rational enough to say, hey, I can do some lives and people can hear, and I can articulate my views, and hopefully people can benefit from it if they want to. But I can't drag you to the water. I can't make you. I'm not even worried about making you. I got a backup plan. Even if you don't do what you should do for your country and for yourself, even if you don't do right by yourself, I'm doing right by mine anyway. So it's all freedom of choice. I appreciate y'all. Peace. I'll be back.